Hey, welcome to another edition of Influence Today with Chet Tart and Terry Lyles. And today we have a special guest, Zachary Green. Zachary is, well, you're going to tell us a little about yourself, Zachary. Why should I do that? I do know that you were in the Marines. I do know that you're talking about entrepreneur and warriors. And I'm glad you're with us this morning. Good morning, Terry. Glad you're with us this morning.
Sure. Welcome.
Zachary, what would you say you're special? Why are you special? What do you do that we should definitely know about you?
I think I've had a lot of hardship in my life, and I've been able to turn those hardships into really great opportunities. And it's all based off of this warrior concept. And the warrior concept can be boiled down very simply. It is embracing adversity as a tool to learn and to grow that prepares you for your crucible. We all have a crucible in our life. It could be death, it could be a divorce, it could be a drug or alcohol problem. In my case, it was my business was failing. And to get through your crucible, the bottom of the crucible is the abyss. That stands for darkness and failure and sometimes even death. But to get through the crucible, you have to conquer the crucible. And the only way to conquer it is to transform and change. And my story is really simple. I was a Marine, a firefighter, invented a product out of the trunk of my car, literally turned it into a $30 million company over the next couple of years. But I had a lot of challenges along the way, as all small businesses do. That's why 90% of them fail within 10 years. Mm-hmm. And for me, my crucible was when I thought we were running out of money. And my transformation was I stepped down as CEO for my own company, hired somebody to report to, and that's when the company really flourished, when we made it through that and that transformational change. So what makes me special? Not a darn thing. I just want to talk about other people and what they can use in their life to make them special.
So you were a Marine, and did you pick up some of these, let me call them strong mindsets?
Absolutely. So, all the things I learned in the Marine, if I practiced them now out in the civilian world, I'd be arrested. So it's the intangibles. That's great that I can blow a building up or kill you with my pinky. That's not going to do me really well outside of the field of combat. But it's the intangibles. It's dedication. It's teamwork. It's integrity. It's grit. It's perseverance. It's having a sense of good morals and integrity. Those are all those things that I learned in the Marine Corps. And at the end of the day, it can boil down to two really simple things: mission accomplishment before troop welfare.
So you were talking about your company. What is it that you did that you started in the back of your car and became a millionaire?
So it was a glow-in-the-dark material. I spent a lot of time at Eli Lilly and brand development and marketing and pharmaceuticals, and we never sold the chemicals that are in the drug. What we talk about is the problem of the disease. So it could be diabetes, it could be depression. And we talk about all those things that happen with diabetes and depression, not the actual disease, but all the results of that. And then we talk about our brand can help solve those problems. The same thing happened to me. As a firefighter, I went into a fire at a very early time in my career and I got lost. It's very scary, very disorienting. Can't see my hand in front of my face. And I obviously finally found my way out of the building, but I was really upset about it. And I remember talking to my captain and telling him, hey, this was a horrible, horrible experience. And he started to laugh and make fun of me. He's like, this happens all the time. So for me, the light bulb was, that's a problem. The solution I came up with is, how can I provide a light source that is visible to not only you as a firefighter, but to your crew to see you and to orient themselves. And I remember this glow-in-the-dark material that I used in the Marine Corps. We had it on the back of our helmets. And through some really brilliant scientists and developers and physicists, I was able to turn that glow-in-the-dark material into products that the firefighters could use as accessories. And before you know it, I had 100,000 firefighters in 25 countries using this product. Literally would go in my trunk and drive to a fire station and say, hey, I'm a firefighter from the Cincinnati area. Can I take you into the bathroom and turn the lights off and show you something really cool? And if they didn't beat me up, they usually said, oh, that's actually neat stuff. Can I buy some of it?
All right.
And there's 100 million exit signs in the United States. They all need batteries, light bulbs, and electricity. That's a problem. my solution was, because now I have access to 1,000 of these firefighters that are inspecting the exit signs, I was able to use them to help promote and to develop my exit signs that using that same glow in the dark material. And that's when the company really got into the tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
I
like,
was going to ask you, Terry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, yeah, with any business, affair that we get into, you can have a great idea, but a great idea connected to a plan, and then be able to articulate that and take it to the marketplace is a whole nother issue. So, it's cool that you were able to do that and, go and sell it. Like Chet and I sell what we do, but it's human performance, but you have to find an issue and then try to solve a problem. And that becomes a way to create your own success.
So let's unpack that for a quick second, because I tell people it's a three-legged stool. Any one of these three legs aren't there, it's not going to be stable.
Mhm.
Number one, you just said it. Have you solved a problem in a unique and elegant way? Number two, what is your unfair competitive business advantage? I didn't say illegal, I didn't say unethical, but unfair. As a small business, it's very difficult for you guys to compete against a billion-dollar business that's been out there for a long time. It's very difficult for me as David to compete against Goliath of these big firefighter safety companies. So those two are really important. Now, my unfair advantage was having other firefighters help endorse my product and share my product. That was difficult for a non-firefighting billion-dollar company to compete against me. But the third one is absolutely essential, and you guys have absolutely mastered the third one, and that is you got to have kick-ass sales, marketing, and distribution. If nobody knows about what your product is, you're not going to sell much. Matter of fact, the opposite is true. You can have really bad product, but great marketing, sales, and distribution, and you can be very successful. You guys remember the rock in the 1970s and 80s, the pet rock? It was a freaking rock. It made millions of dollars because it was at the front of every grocery store. They had a nice packaging. They had great commercials. The Snuggie, billion-dollar brand. Stupid idea, but you know what? Great marketing distribution. So if no one knows about what you have and no one can buy it easily, you're not going to be really successful.
Yeah, true.
So you wrote a book also, Zachary. And what is that book based on? Your experience, marketing? Tell me about that.
So it was supposed to be an autobiography, but as I started working with my editorial team, they said, look, buddy, unless your name's Oprah Winfrey or Elton John, nobody wants to read your autobiography other than your mom and your wife, and they're probably not going to pay for the book. So I had to feel out what was it that made my life different and what is the message I want to get across. And I started to look at all the traits that warriors have. All those things we talked about before, all those things I experienced, not just in the Marine Corps, but I remembered from the ancient Spartans or the samurai or what you see with other ones. And I found that common theme, adversity, preparing them for their crucible, transformation through the crucible to something really special and warrior-like. I also found that same trend happening with all the entrepreneurs that I've worked with and interviewed and talked to. And that is, the harder it is in those early years, the better that's going to prepare you for the difficulty. Because the problems I have now are the same problems I had 10 years ago. I just now add a bunch of zeros to those problems. And the consequences are a lot more severe. So the book, basically, the first third is talking about the science of adversity, how your body has sympathetic and parasympathetic resources. If you have ever been in a car accident before, you know, right before the impact, everything slows down. That's your body's a way of giving you these superhuman powers to prepare yourself if for a life and death situation. If you ever walked into a sales meeting and you forgot your thumb drive with the presentation, you've been working 3 months on it. Your body's going to release adrenaline. It's going to release cortisol. It's going to do all these things to make your more blood flow to your brain, more oxygen into your bloodstream, all these type of things to help you react for that. And that's what this book talks about. And I give you specific tools on how to use that to your advantage. And then also I share story after story of people from both the military and the entrepreneurial world that have used that adversity to conquer their crucibles.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's right up your alley, Terry. Terry writes about the body also and the mind. He talks about how the turn pressure into your performance.
Yep.
It is
And
absolutely the same thing.
yeah, and what you're referring to as that crucible is just our life issues. Whatever we end up with that seemingly defeats us could be what empowers us if we convert it. So a lot of what I talk about is threat, challenge, response. How do you take something that's a perceived threat and turn it into a challenge? Not eliminate it, but turn it into a challenge. It could be a divorce. It could be a special needs child. It could be a war injury. It could be PTSD. It could be any of the ADD. I mean, it could be any of the DDDs that are out there. But how do you convert that and not use it as an excuse, but use it as a success? But it's what you're talking about. It's being able to convert that to make it work for you versus against you.
Terry, I mean, I could talk to you hours and hours about this. They say ADD, which I have off the charts, ADHD. I went to 5 different
Right.
schools growing up.
Right.
They call it a disability, but it actually is called multitasking when you get out of school. And they say, look, he's a great multitasker. It's not a disability, it's a superpower. I
Correct.
can do more. I can do 5 things better than most people can do 1 thing. And
Mhm.
I've been able to use that. But as society, we go against that. So to your point, you can only affect how you react to things. You can't affect what happens to you.
Mhm.
And there's 2 people. The one is going to say, you know what, that's going to break me down and hurt me. And the other one's going to be on the Nietzsche philosophy of what doesn't kill me makes me stronger.
Sure.
And that's exactly what you're getting across in me. And in my book, I really get into the biological responses of the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems and the actual chemicals that are released in your body and how they happen. So that way you can train that and use that when you're faced with those critical conversations or those difficult moments.
Sure. No, that's awesome. Yeah. And so how do people find your book, Zachary? Where do they go to see you?
So obviously it's on anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Kobo, you name it. However, I am going to offer a special for your listeners. If they go to my website, warriorentrepreneurbook.com, and they type in the coupon code podcast 2021, podcast 2021, they can get it for 50% off, and I'll be more than happy to go ahead and inscribe it for you. In addition to that, please go onto the page and fill out the contact us information, because I'm also going to be launching a 90-day warrior framework online training course. And it's not going to just be the course material, but you're going to get one-on-one coaching with me. It's going to be designed for small business owners, for entrepreneurs, or really anybody that wants to conquer life's crucibles, and how we can turn those challenges into training opportunities.
Great.
Before you leave, you have a list here of warrior principles: teamwork, purpose, confidence. There's a ton of them here. It seems like a lot and maybe overwhelming. Is there any top 3 that you would say, pay attention to these first before you go down the list?
The top one, I think, of all of them that really encompasses a lot is the word grit.
Grit.
Grit is something that no matter what happens to you, you're unbreakable. You're going to accomplish that mission. You're going to do whatever you have to do. So that's the first one, is grit. The other one is teamwork. It's too much to do it on your own. There is no such thing as an army of one. You have to do that. And for me, as an entrepreneur and as a small business owner, I realize that no one will ever do as good a job as I do. They won't care as much as I do. They won't try as much as I do, but they don't need to. If I can find someone that can do 60% of what I can do, and I hire 2 of them, that's 120%. That's 20% more than I can do. So having that team. And then the final one that I think is so important that we're missing a lot is serenity. The suicide rate is ridiculous in the military right now. We're losing more of our men and women to suicide than to combat. But the suicide rate in the entrepreneurial community is 6 times higher than it is in the military combat community. Nobody talks about that. The stress, the failure, the fact that we're all solo out there and we don't have that structure. So really spend the time on A, getting enough sleep, B, working out, eating well, and having those type of opportunities where you can have some kind of healthy outlet where you can blow off some of that steam. Because I will tell you, I've been through some heavy stuff in the Marines and really crazy stuff in the fire service. Nothing has been more difficult and more pressure than running my own business.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's tough. And recovery is the key. How do you recharge your batteries, and how do you do those pit stops during the day to take care of yourself? So yeah, good
Hey,
stuff.
Zachery, before we leave, this is a great question I ask everybody. How do you sustain these principles on an ongoing basis so that it keeps you fresh in your mind and every day you get up and you're focused on it? The reason I say that is because there's a lot of people I meet that are fired up after they read your book, and then you go back to them 2 or 3 days later, they forgot a few things a week later. They don't even bother doing it anymore. Is there any kind of behavior ritual that you do or that you would offer somebody so that this becomes sustainable and they move to another level that you call the warrior level?
So I think that's the real secret sauce. I think it's a great question, Chet. And the answer is that's up to the individual. I can't teach them and show them how to continue on. I can lay the line out for them. I can teach them how to fish, but they ultimately have to fish. And the people that are successful are the ones that follow up. I love the famous story about this guy in South Africa that bought this land that supposedly had all these diamonds. And for years upon years, he dug through the dirt to try to find the diamonds. And he eventually got down to about 6 inches, found no diamonds, decided to give up and leave. And he sells the property to this other guy for pennies on the dollar. And that guy digs down 7 inches and finds the largest diamond reserve in all of South Africa. So you could be right on the edge of that greatness, but if you don't have that routine and you don't challenge yourself to keep going at it, I found that for me, what has made me successful as an entrepreneur is not my talent, skills, or anything. It was my ability to continue to drive forward and keep that routine going in the midst of some really horrendous stuff that happened along the way. And I think just showing up is half the job, is most of the job. Just showing up, just doing it.
Was your environment helping you? Did you have a coach? Did you have an accountability partner to keep you on track? As humans, we fall backwards. And you were just talking about teamwork. My feeling is that somebody took your hand and walked you through the days where you were just, I'm not doing this.
Well, I think for me, first of all, as an entrepreneur, you have to have a level of confidence that borderlines on arrogance. And the fact that for me, I told so many people about my idea, I had so much media, I couldn't fail because that failure was on me. So that was one drive, as my personal motivation for success. Yes, I had a team. I have investors that put money into my business. I could not let them down. I had the bank that I owed collateral to, i.e. my house. I could not let them down, or they're going to take my house. So for me, I put myself in a situation where I couldn't quit, because during those dark times where I really wanted to quit, and the easy thing would have been to quit and not move forward, I had put myself in a situation where I couldn't. And it's kind of the same thing in the military. You put yourself into situations where surrender is just not an option. And that was for me, and it could be difficult. And that's why you have the mental health issue, because people feel trapped. But yeah, I mean, you're right. The teamwork, the mentors, being a mentor for other people, not letting my family down. But I'll be honest with you, a lot of it was my personal, my personal character of me not wanting to fail.
Yeah, it's good.
Terry, any last comments?
No, that's it, man. That's good stuff. So again, just where do we find your book? Just again.
WarriorEntrepreneurBook.com. Again, podcast 2021 is a coupon code. Please fill out your name, email, phone number. I'd love to get you guys information on the 90-day Warrior Framework program that's going to start kicking off in January.
That's great.
Perfect.
Do you have a podcast or?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to be starting a podcast. I'm recording my first series this weekend. It's a joint podcast with me and my fellow Marine Colonel Ricardo Player, who's actually an Emmy award-winning regimental commander that's currently on active duty in the Marine Corps. And it's going to be going over everyone from active duty military to that stay-at-home mom that's working, or no, that mom that's working 2 jobs to help her kids, anyone that embraces that warrior's voice. And we want to hear from them. That'll probably kick off in January, February. And I'd be deeply honored to have you guys on as a guest once I figure out how to do all this podcast and stuff.
Would love to. Yeah, would love to.
We'd be honored to. Thank you, Zachery, for spending the time with us. And thank you for listening to Influence Today with Chet Tart, Terry Lyles, and our guest, Zachery Green.
Have a wonderful day, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.